Let's go now to the UK and speak with Francesco Rizzuto in Liverpool. He's the Dean of the School of Law at Liverpool Hope University. Great to have you back with us, Professor. We know EU lawmakers are notorious for being divided on many issues. It can take a long time for them to agree to major changes in EU law, but they seem to be largely united on this one. Why is that?
Well, good evening. Well, by the way, it's taken since 1999, that's 24 years to get to this point. And this particular deal has taken nearly a decade to get to. So they're united because they've managed to overcome the resistance of some states in East and Northern Europe who were basically against the idea of burden sharing, solidarity. Everybody was agreed that we should have in place rules on screening, which have now been introduced, that we should have in place rules on how to process people. Yes, that was fine. What they couldn't agree with, and what took a long time to agree on, was whether migrants, for example, arriving in Italy could be sent to France or Poland or Germany. And that was the sticking. So if you like, that rule has not changed, by the way. The Dublin rule that says that the first place of arrival is the place that essentially has to process people, that hasn't changed. But what has changed is that the northern states have agreed that they will now support the southern states by either taking up to 30,000 migrants a year, or actually giving them money, 20,000 euros per migrant that they should have taken that they won't take, or they will support those states in actually building up their infrastructure, their ability to actually process things at the frontier. But there's an agreement, if you like, if I'm going on a bit, they've agreed on what to do at the border and internally. What they haven't agreed, which is much harder, is what to do with those states, how to agree with those states from which the migrants are coming.
Yes, and just reading some of the latest reaction, the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz says that these new rules are a historic, indispensable step for the European Union. But as you say, both the far right and far left groups have both criticised these changes. The far left saying that these new rules go against Europe's vision and, I guess, Europe's ideals. The far right saying they wanted to see far tougher measures against irregular arrivals into the EU. Do you think that the measures that have been passed will have any sort of an effect on the numbers of people coming to the EU shores?
In all honesty, no. The desperation of people doesn't change by the European Union suddenly adopting a more united, more cohesive, how can I put it, a more solidarity approach to these things. The people from outside Europe will still want to come. So I don't think that will change. Incidentally, when we talk about the votes today, there was some trepidation that the measures could fall, or one or two of them. There were 5 measures, by the way. Regulations, which means they are directly applicable in the states. They don't need the states to do anything other than implement them. So that tells you that there is a process of centralization going on here. No, I think that what is really important here is the fact that some parties, the moderate left in Italy, voted against these measures, and that made the vote in Parliament closer. Parties that you thought were all for this kind of approach suddenly realized that in domestic terms, they needed to show domestic audiences in Italy and elsewhere. So it's not just the far right, it's actually the moderate left. That some moderate leftist parties splintered and voted against these measures today. In Italy, to just take that example, the Democratic Party voted against in the European Parliament, as did the Five Star Movement. So that explains, to an extent, the fact that there was some trepidation on the closeness of the vote. But will it make any difference to people still coming across the Mediterranean? No. Will it make the European Union more efficient in actually sending people back who don't have the right of asylum? No, we only, I think, out of 100 105,000, I can't remember the figure off the top of my head. We only sent back 28,000. Will that increase? Not without the agreement of receiving states. So I'm not so sure that this will actually make a profound difference in terms of the pull that Europe still will have for people trying to escape the desperate situation that they're coming from. However, it is an important first step at actually establishing a cohesive, centrally coordinated approach to the migration challenge that Europe faces. And individual states no longer can veto things, which was the problem before.
Okay, Professor Francesco Rizzuto, we'll have to leave it there. Great to get your analysis as always. Thank you.
Pleasure.